Okay, this is our April book club. I wanted to start a different type of book club because I know most book clubs don't actually work. You either fall behind, you don't like the book that people are reading, but what I want to do here is every month I'm going to record one of these where I talk about what I'm reading, what I'm planning on reading for the next month, and what maybe you guys are reading. I'd love to hear comments, what you guys are actually digging into, and we can maybe talk about those as we go through this. This is a new type of book club. It's one that I hope actually works because most book clubs do not. And let's start with what I read in the last month. So I'll start off with Countdown 1945. This is a nonfiction book about the lead up to the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombings, nuclear bombings in 1945. It's about the end of World War II and specifically like the days leading up to that and the people involved in the actual process of dropping that bomb. And this was a pretty decent read. It's a pretty quick read. I like this sort of nonfiction historical storytelling. These Countdown books, I had read a couple of the other ones by Christopher Wallace. And you know what? I think they're all decent. They're not like the best, most compelling historical nonfiction I've ever read, but you know, they're fine and they're a good refresher on that period of history, whatever period the book is looking to cover. So generally I would recommend this one, but it's not like a must-read, required reading situation. But Countdown 1945 is just generally pretty decent. On top of that, I read Carl's Doomsday Scenario, which I believe is the second book in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I really like the first one. This second one sort of involves a circus, and there's some additional layers to Dungeon Crawler Carl. I know that this is like the new hotness online. Everyone who is talking about what to read is sort of breaking a slump. I mean, I frequently recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl myself, but I didn't love this one as much as I enjoyed the first one. I've been told that the series kind of picks up at 3 and into 4, so I'm looking forward to that. But overall, I thought this one was only okay. Ultimately, I think the Dungeon Crawler Carl of it all kind of only goes so far with me. It's not like my favorite series of all time, but I do generally enjoy these books. The next book I read was Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. This is the second book in the Dune series following Paul Atreides and his jihad/takeover of the universe. The new Dune movie, Dune 3, is coming out, or Dune Part 3 is coming out in, I believe, December of this year as I'm recording this, and I wanted to get a read on the book that's going to serve as the source material for that third movie in the series. The original Dune was split into 2 parts for the 2 parts that we've already seen so far with Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya and all those famous people. But this is Dune Messiah, I had heard, kind of takes the series in a weirder, darker direction, and it had been regarded by many as sort of unfilmable, undoable on screen. And I must be honest, I didn't love Dune, the original, myself. I tried to read it, I think, twice. I think I read it twice, actually. First time I didn't like it, and then I read it a second time. I was like, maybe I didn't really get this. Maybe I wasn't in the right headspace. And I didn't like it again. I thought it was very interior. I thought that the action scenes were kind of lame. I think that a lot of older science fiction, older fantasy storytelling just doesn't click with me for whatever reason. I'm notoriously not a big fan of the Lord of the Rings books. I hate how much of that is just them telling you what happened in the past. It's clearly written by, to me, like a linguist and not somebody who is actually all that interested in the conventions of storytelling. But the world building is so good that nobody actually cares about that. So what did I think of Dune Messiah, the second book in the series, the one that will serve as a sort of source material for the upcoming movie? I really like this one, shockingly so. It's a quick read, it's really not very long, and it's a breezy read. It's extremely dark and extremely weird, and the end of this book is off the rails. I don't even know how to really describe how this book ends. I look forward to the movie-going public having to deal with the discourse around how this movie ends, if it is going to follow the Dune Messiah plot to a T, because it is off the rails. It is an off-the-rails story. And I kind of just like the idea that Frank Herbert had the gall to make this story and to make the hero of his first book such a flawed character in the secondary story. The book itself follows Paul Atreides after he's sort of assumed the title of King of the Universe or whatever, Muad'Dib, the god Fremen king, and follows sort of the trouble with leading and the trouble that he experiences now that he's at the driver's seat of the Empire. And you know, it's one thing to take over, it's another thing to actually run the universe. And he talks in very direct terms about the human cost of actually gaining that power and how many lives it has cost for him to control the universe. And he's pretty depressed about that, and he's not happy about it, and this book reckons with that. So I really recommend Dune Messiah, even to those who maybe didn't enjoy the first one. If you just saw the movies, you could probably just dive into Dune Messiah. It can be a little confusing at times. It's just the way that Frank Herbert tends to write. But overall, I thought this was a really fun read and probably my favorite fiction book that I've read in some time. What else did I read? I actually dove into some comic books over the past month or so, and I want to talk about those. First of all, I read Absolute Superman. I had heard about this one because DC, for those who don't know, recently rebooted their entire comic book line, and Absolute Superman was among that list of books that they kind of rebooted. It retells the stories of all the classic DC superheroes, kind of removes like what makes them so special a little bit. For example, Bruce Wayne in Absolute Batman is no longer the son of a billionaire. He's just kind of like a street level criminal doing the best of what he can. And Superman's parents don't die, spoiler alert, it's a very different story. It's kind of more of like an immigrant story where he's working with people around the country around the world who were being oppressed by this regime. Honestly, this didn't work for me. I didn't like Superman by Jason Aaron, Absolute Superman. Something about the art style, something about the comic itself just didn't really click for me. It felt kind of boring at times. I'm not a huge Superman guy anyways. I enjoyed the movie last year by James Gunn, but ultimately not a huge Superman guy. I like some of the Red Sun stuff, some of the reckoning like of whether or how Superman would be different if he had come to Earth under different circumstances. But this isn't really that. It feels like it's trying to be very sort of socially prescient, and it doesn't really nail that. And it just wasn't fun or super enjoyable to me. So I don't want to waste too much time ragging on it. I know that the creative team seems to have a lot of other more successful projects. So, not for me. Maybe for you, but not for me. I also read Absolute Batman, the Scott Snyder reboot of Batman. That was pretty good. I mean, that one's pretty legit. That, I think, is the standard bearer across all these DC titles. It reimagines Batman without his fortune. It reimagines all of the villains of the Batman universe. It's very insane. It's kind of like a testosterone-fueled fever dream at times, where the villains themselves are like these hulking monsters, and Batman himself is this 400-pound hulking monster of a person. He's like Alan Rickman, basically come to life. I mean, Alan Rickman seems to be the only human being I can think to play Absolute Batman because of what a hulking freak he is. I think I just said Alan Rickman. I meant Alan Richardson, the guy who just beat up his neighbor. Reacher, that big, massive fella, Thad Castle. Not Alan Rickman, the deceased actor who played Snape. That would be a very strange casting for Absolute Batman. Not quite the same vibe. Now, let's move on to my next comic that I read, the last thing that I read over the last month, and that is Absolute Martian Manhunter, another book in this Absolute series. You know what? This was the best of the bunch. This one was so good. I cannot speak highly enough about Absolute Martian Manhunter. It felt like True Detective on mushrooms. It follows John Smith, maybe? I don't remember exactly his name. But he is an FBI detective guy, like an FBI investigator. He is the victim of a bombing that is committed by a supervillain, and ultimately he is saved by this Martian who becomes a part of his psyche, and with whom he begins like moving through the universe and trying to fight and uncover mysteries and fight nefarious forces. Very good story. Very excellent storytelling. The art here is unbelievable. It's one of my like favorite comics first read in a very long time, where like I just read it and I was immediately all in on that one. For whatever reason, it just jumped out to me. I loved it. I cannot wait to dive into the next volume. It comes out in August. It's a limited series, so it's pretty short. If you like graphic novels, if you want to rip through the first one, you can basically follow along with the monthly releases as they come. I think there's like 4 issues left. It's only going up to 12, but I may start following along with the floppies because of how much I really loved this story. Again, it's a pure detective story, pure crime noir with incredible colors, incredible art style, and very funny at times. Just a great story overall. So let's talk now about what I'm reading now, what I'm actually in the midst of. So I'm actually in the midst of 2 longer books, and I'm hoping to finish both of them by the end of next month. I'm pretty confident I will. The first one is The Passage by Justin Cronin. It's like this post-apocalyptic vampire story about these creatures that sort of take over. There's a virus, like a viral vampire infection that takes over the world. This young girl who's kind of at the center of it. This is the second book in a series. The first one I read years and years ago, and I just loved it. Cronin tells his story a little bit like Stephen King, where you get these glimpses across timelines of different characters, of different perspectives, all within the same world, and they really help to build out the world of this book. I loved the first one. I've been told that this one isn't as good, but so far I'm enjoying it pretty well. It's a behemoth, though. It's like a longer book as well. I think it's 500, 600 plus pages. And the same goes for the second book that I'm reading, a nonfiction book. That is The Revolutionists, the story of extremists who hijacked the 1970s. Now, this book is all about extremism in the 1970s, as you can probably tell from the title, how organizations and political unrest allowed individuals to take a newfound importance in the world of shaping, I guess, political theory. It's all about how these people were sort of roped into these extremist organizations and into these extremist causes, but just by virtue of the world at that time, how the nature of the 1970s allowed people to get roped up in all this stuff. Very good read so far. Very dense, so not a super quick one, but I am moving through it, and it's just incredible to see just how critical of a decade the 70s was in the context of defining what we think of as extremism, and how much things kind of haven't changed in a lot of ways from the 70s. We're talking 50 years ago, and for as much as things change, they certainly do stay the same in a lot of the motivations behind the violence we see in the world. So another interesting read, really looking forward to finishing that one, and the Justin Cronin book, The Passage. So next month, I'm going to hopefully be talking about both The Passage and The Revolutionists. I have a couple books on my reading list for next month that I want to maybe recommend, or maybe recommend you guys take a look at, and I'll probably talk about next month as I move through them. So first off, I'm going to recommend 2 more comics in this Absolute series because I'm just enjoying going through them. Haven't checked them out yet, but they're on my reading list. First one is Absolute Flash. Not a huge Flash guy. I've heard it's pretty good, but I'm definitely going to check it out because I've just enjoyed like the funness of these absolute reimaginings of these classic characters. That's just enjoyable to me. It's like they had a Superior Spider-Man a number of years ago, which was a Spider-Man series all about if Otto Octavius, Doc Ock, basically his soul took over Peter Parker's body, and he became like very successful financially, and he was just a very cruel, brutal Peter Parker, but a great series. He's actually trying to do a good job. So a really good series, one of the funner Spider-Man reinventions of the last many years, in my opinion. And that's the fun I'm having with Absolute right now. So on top of Absolute Flash, I'm going to go with Absolute Wonder Woman. Dying to read this one. Heard this is maybe the best in the entire bunch. I love Martian Manhunter. I can't see anything supplanting that for me, but this one's at the top of my list on that front. Now, next up in terms of books, the new book by Patrick Raddenkeefe, London Falling, which is about a young man who went missing in London, who was ultimately killed, I believe, and who may have been masquerading as a spy unbeknownst to his family, and sort of unwinding the mystery of this young man. Love Patrick Raddenkeefe's work. Say Nothing is one of my favorite books ever. His book about the Troubles and a missing woman in Northern Ireland. An incredible work of nonfiction, one of the best works of nonfiction, in my opinion, ever written. And so I'm looking forward very much to this new work by Patrick Raddenkeefe. Just one of those guys who I always keep an eye on, and I'm always looking out for a new book. So I'd love to know in the comments what you guys are reading next month, what you're bringing to the book club, what you guys recommend that I check out next month, because I want this to sort of be back and forth, and I think that that's the most tangible way to do one of these book clubs, to kind of talk about whatever you're reading, talk about what you want to read, and I think it's a little more sustainable than everyone reading the same thing. Now, obviously, if there's enough comments to talk about one thing in particular, I think that'd be really fun, but I just feel like a lot of these things kind of burn out, and that's why book clubs don't really work. But this is our book club. This is the Big Brain Book Club, and we're going to make it work 1 month at a time. So until later, I will talk to you guys soon. Be sure to leave a comment down below what you guys are reading, what you want me to check out. Bye now.